Jesus taught the Beatitudes so we could know what it really means to follow and be his disciples. Jesus' focus this time is humility. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. Humility is not a common word we use to describe someone today. A deeper look at its true meaning explains why such a characteristic is a rare commodity in society and Christendom in general. To be humble is to be kind and gentle, submissive or compliant, tame and humbly patient. God sees every part of our hearts, and his truth serves as a necessary yardstick to ensure we are living the way he has called us to live. So Christian humility is the state and disposition that describes how we are dependent on God rather than on ourselves or the world. During Jesus' day on earth and today, prideful achievements and self-motivations are applauded and encouraged by the world. Society grooms us to look out for ourselves, to keep ourselves happy and to go after everything we supposedly deserve in this life. Jesus' word was quite the opposite. He says, God blesses you if you humble yourself to depend not on yourself or achievements or possessions, but on God. He will give you the earth as an inheritance when you surrender and cease to own nothing. The happiness of the humble is not in their humility itself, but in the fact that they are depending on God is what really makes them truly humble. The humble are blessed not because they will inherit the whole earth, but because they trust God. Then because they trust God, they commit their lives and their ways to him. They cast upon him their anxieties, their frustrations, their plans, their relationships, their job, their health, everything. They commit it to God. Humility is not something we can earn by what we do, but rather what happens when we let go and turn our lives over to God. If you're a disciple of Jesus, if you trust him and commit your way to him and wait patiently for him, God has already begun to bless you and will bless you even more. And the primary way that he will bless you is to assure your heart that you are a fellow heir of Jesus Christ and that the world and everything in it is yours. And assure you that you have been blessed with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly realms because you are united with Christ. Let me tell you a story. In the summer of 1966, a young minister was working for Operation Mobilization and was stationed in London during their big annual conference. He was assigned to the cleanup crew. One night at around 12:30 a.m., he was sweeping the steps at the conference center when an older gentleman approached him and asked if this was where the conference was being held. This young man said that it was, but that just about everyone had already gone to bed. This man was dressed very simply and had just a small bag with him. He said that he was attending the conference. Then the young man replied he would try to find him a place to sleep and led him to a room where about 50 people were sleeping on the floor. The older gentleman had nothing to sleep on, so this young man laid down some paddings and a blanket and offered a towel for a pillow. The man said that that would be just fine and that he would appreciate it very much. The young man asked the older gentleman if he had been able to eat dinner. It turned out that he hadn't eaten since he had been traveling all day. This young man then took him to the dinner room, but it was locked. Somehow he forcefully opened the door and found some cornflakes and milk and jam and bread. As the man ate, the two began to talk. The man said that He and his wife had been working in Switzerland for several years, where he had a small ministry that served hippies and travelers. He spoke about his work and spoke about some of the people he had seen turn to Christ. When he finished eating, both men turned in for the night. The young man woke up the next morning only to find out that he was in big trouble. The conference leader came to him and said, "Don't you know who it was that you put on the floor last night? It's Francis Schaeffer. He is the speaker for the conference. We had the whole room set aside for him." This young man had no idea that he was sleeping on the floor next to a celebrity, that he had told a man to sleep on the floor who had a profoundly important ministry. He had no idea that this man had helped shape the Christian church of that day. And Schaeffer never let on. In humility, he had accepted his lot and been grateful for it. That's humility. He was just happy to be there. When a person has a correct view of himself, as someone who has been shown mercy, who is impoverished, such a person is happy to be a servant. And when the person sees himself as a servant, he isn't frustrated that people don't recognize him or promote him or sees his greatness. The humble person is a person who forgets himself. He's just happy to be a servant. Oh, may God take us to that place where we don't need a place of position position or prominence, but a place where we are content to be a servant. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the earth. That's what Jesus said, and it is true forever. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Pilgrim Podcast. If you find it helpful, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast or search our growing archive for more episodes. Join me next time as we journey through Scripture, exploring the Christian life and what it practically means to live as a pilgrim in this world.